Former President Trump and Vice President Harris facing what could be a historic gender gap potentially in this year's election. Look at this.
Trump up 18 with men, Harris 16 with women. That is a 34-point gender gap by about 10 points. If this happens, this would be the biggest gender gap ever recorded.
Let's bring in Tulsi Gabbard, Trump transition team co-chair, former lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserve, current, right? Are you still in the Army? I'm sorry, correct myself. And former Democratic Congresswoman and presidential candidate who is now a Republican. Tulsi Gabbard, welcome. Great to have you with us today. I want to talk to you about foreign policy, and I want to talk to you about the women gap that we just showed on that screen. This is what it looks like in the battleground states in the latest polling. Trump down by 16 with women. And there's obviously been a big effort of late to do these Trump Team Women's Tour events, which you have been part of. Here's a clip from that in Atlanta on Saturday. Watch.
When the left and the other side was relentlessly attacking me and trying to tear me down, it was Donald Trump who built me up and gave me the confidence I needed to keep fighting.
I would also say to Mark Cuban, watch how this group of smart, strong women gets Donald Trump elected 3 days from now.
So what do you think about the effectiveness of those, about the Cuban comment, and has it given the campaign an energy and a focus on women voters that maybe it didn't have before?
Laura Trump launched a Women for Trump tour, definitely over a month ago, maybe even 2 months ago now. I helped her with a couple of the first events. So this is not something new or that's in response to the incredibly offensive and derogatory comments that Mark Cuban made. I think what his comments highlighted was really the mindset, frankly, that I experienced when I was a part of the Democrat Party, when I was still a vice chair of the DNC, even when I ran for president. The Democrat elite, they're all about having the first woman president, but only if you're a certain kind of woman. And the certain kind of woman they're looking for is one that will toe the line and spout their Democrat elite talking points and essentially be the kind of figurehead candidate that Kamala Harris is and that Hillary Clinton was. So, the idea that we had all of those women on that stage last night, all different backgrounds, different people accomplished in different ways, but coming together because we love our country and we recognize the serious threats to our freedom and our ability to live in a peaceful and prosperous society here in America. And that's why we're supporting President Trump.
Well, what do you say, to the idea that I know you said these started a while ago. The first one that we could find was October 24th in terms of this Trump Team Women's Tour. And I know that there were town halls that you co-hosted, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders also did that a while before that. But is it something that you wish had happened sooner, seeing all of you together in these events with President Trump?
Yeah, I don't have any regrets about how things are going. Like I said, Laura Trump launched something well over a month ago. All of us in our own ways, I think, have been out on the road and speaking with voters, listening to voters, really for the last several months. And so the fact that we're all gathered together and many of us spoke this morning at the Lancaster, Pennsylvania rally before President Trump began his remarks, we don't all have to stand together for people to hear our reasons individually for why we believe that President Trump is our best and only choice in this election, to have a president who really cares about the American people, who's willing to fight for us, who's willing to stand up to the power elite in Washington, and be that president that fights for peace, freedom, and prosperity for all Americans.
So I want to ask about foreign policy because it hasn't been discussed quite enough, I would say, in the course of this campaign on all sides. What did you think about the Liz Cheney, back and forth? And really, my big question for you is, what do you think about the fact that the Cheneys are now supporting Democrats? What does that tell you about the reversals that we've seen in American politics? I mean, that's a pretty extraordinary pairing.
It is, but when you peel kind of below the surface and the reason why they're supporting Kamala Harris, Liz and Dick Cheney specifically, but even others like Adam Kinzinger and others, you really understand why. And President Trump's criticism of Liz Cheney the other day, and Dick Cheney for that matter, was really pointing out the fact that people like them are very quick and easy to advocate for starting a new war in another place and send our troops, my brothers and sisters in uniform, into harm's way. But they themselves have never and will never volunteer to put their own lives on the lines to go and participate in or fight in these military adventures that they're advocating for. That was his point. And it's the reason why we see them supporting Kamala Harris, because President Trump, time and time again, has said, look, his goal is to end wars, not start them, and to work towards, de-escalating tensions, negotiating peace deals, and doing what he can through diplomatic measures, and recognizing that war should always be a last resort.
Well,
that is not the philosophy of Liz Cheney
and that was the experience of the first 4 years.
That's right.
Which is, just the facts on the table. Harris has had a different message, and obviously everyone can see that we're watching President Trump as he got off the plane. He hasn't started speaking yet. She has two different ads that have two different messages on Israel and Gaza, aimed at Wisconsin, one for Wisconsin and one for Michigan. It's just 14 seconds. Let's play that right now.
I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself. What has happened in Gaza over the past 9 months is devastating. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering.
So the first one was a Pennsylvania ad, very pro-Israel. The second one was a scolding Israel ad that is playing in Michigan. What do you make of that?
I'm not surprised to see this at all, Martha, because this is exactly what she did when she ran for president in 2020. She and I were in that Democratic primary, and no kidding, from a Monday to a Wednesday to a Friday, she would say completely different things to different audiences about her positions on things like health care and Medicare for all and other things based on who she was speaking to. And even the mainstream media, the CNNs, MSNBC, some of them actually questioned her on this, saying, hey, just a few days ago, you said this was your position.
Yeah.
Now, today, you're saying it's a different one. So again, this goes back to Kamala Harris, who then, as now, is going to deliver a message to an audience that she believes they want to hear, rather than actually speaking to all the American people.
The problem is we don't know what we're going to get. If she's elected, she really has not been pinned down on these questions in any meaningful way.
And she will deliver talking points that are handed to her, which to me, as a soldier, as someone who's deployed to war zones in different parts of the world, that's a terrifying thought, to think about a commander-in-chief who we don't know exactly where she stands. We look at their record over the last 4 years, which has been disastrous on foreign policy and very dangerous, and recognizing that those who want to continue to profit from us being in a constant state of war are going to be the ones who are putting their talking points in front of her, but she's going to have the nuclear codes.
So, real quick, I've only got a few seconds, but who do you think that would be? Because we don't even have a sense of who her foreign policy voice is. Do you think the Cheneys would be involved in some of that again?
It wouldn't surprise me, given their track record. The names don't matter so much as the people who consistently across both parties have shown that they are warmongers, who are so ready to start a war, who don't care for peace, who don't care for our security or the lives of the American people and our men and women in uniform.
Tulsi Gabbard, thank you.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.